I'm working on writing the first draft of a novel. It's a first draft that I have been working on and off for about a year. And lately I've really been thinking about the benefits of writing slowly. For most of this year, I had no choice but to work slowly on my creative writing project because I was working at the same time on finishing my doctoral dissertation, and that writing project obviously took priority. But at the end of September, I defended my dissertation and I earned my PhD, which, among other things, means that all of my writing time, all of my writing energy can now be dedicated just to my creative project. Shortly after my dissertation defense, in the beginning of October, I took a train from Barcelona to Avignon, and I spent a week and a half or so in southern France. I spent the entire train ride writing, and my intention was to spend most of my time there in France continuing to write. And I did spend time writing in the mornings while having my tea, or on afternoons when it was too rainy to go outside and do much of anything else, or just now and then when I wanted some time alone with my thoughts. I would sit down and open up that first draft and keep on chipping away. But I didn't want to spend all my time writing. I wanted to spend my time walking around all these tiny towns and food markets and having slow, lingering dinners, drinking wine, relaxing, just all around slowing down. I was staying in the commune of Lacoste, population under 500, home to a handful of American art students and the crumbling remains of a castle formerly inhabited by the Marquis de Sade. It's this absolutely beautiful, peaceful area of Provence filled with so many vineyards and olive groves and lavender fields. I wrote more days than I didn't write. Some of those days I wrote 1,000 words. Some days I wrote only 300, and of course some days I wrote none at all. Because if faced with the choice between sitting at my laptop typing away or standing under an umbrella holding a pair of tongs in one hand and a glass of local rosé in the other, cooking dinner over a fire in a light evening rain, I will choose the latter, and I will not regret it. And some days I worked on writing my newsletter instead of my novel because apparently I am incapable of having only one writing project going for me at one time. Maybe that's a sign that I'm a glutton for punishment, but I'd prefer to think of it as a sign that I just really do love writing and I like to take on new projects. I like to give myself challenges. Still, sometimes the biggest challenge when it comes to writing is consistency, having a consistent practice, coming back over and over again to the same project, working away at it, even when the inspiration might be lacking. By mid-October, I had returned back home, and even though I had lately been pretty consistent with my writing practice of sitting down and making time to work on my first draft, I was still starting to feel frustrated that I hadn't made enough progress in my first draft. I set this intention for myself that I was going to use the fall months to really dig in to my first draft, that I was going to reach 90,000 words, a full first draft of a novel that I could then edit. And I am still working through that challenge. I haven't decided to stop working on the novel by any means, but I have thought more critically about the fact that I put this goal to myself as get to 90,000 words as quickly as possible. As October drew to an end and November has started, I've been thinking more and more about how nice it is to write slowly, to let ideas emerge gradually, to sit with a project, to have a draft as kind of a companion that you spend your time with day after day, month after month. When I'm dedicating a full day to writing, I like to have something simmering on the stove all day, like broth or beans or a braising meat of some kind. For one thing, it makes for a great reward at the end of the workday. Writing is over, and then it's time to serve up a nice bowl of brothy chickpeas or turn a 10-hour stock into some spicy chicken soup. But aside from that, I also think there's a kind of symbiosis between a day of writing and a slow-cooked meal. I like having something simmering away for hours while I write for hours because I like to have something to do with my hands. I like to stand up from my computer and go stir or taste, adjust the heat, add more pepper. I like to see the progress of what I'm cooking alongside the progress I'm making in my writing project, and it feels like they both feed in motivation to the other, especially because sometimes progress in writing is less obvious than progress in cooking. You can see when the meat starts to fall off the bone of some short ribs, but I might sit down to work for hours and barely write a full page. The time you put in does not always translate to a clear result. But the ideas are still simmering away and slowly developing, even if there's not necessarily a tangible result to go with it. Time spent writing is never time wasted, even if the writing itself doesn't turn out the way you want it to. And when that happens, it's really nice to have a tangible result of work to turn to in the form of a delicious meal. So it's been over a month since I finished my dissertation and was able to start dedicating all my writing energies to this first draft of my novel. And in that time, I have averaged a little less than 900 words per day. And I wouldn't exactly call that plowing ahead at an impressive pace. You know, we've all seen vlogs from people who write 5,000 words a day or more, and maybe I will try to have some days like that as my fall continues. Maybe I will dig into real marathon writing days and see how many words I can get through before I can't write anymore. I do love a writing challenge, after all. But for now, I'm also really embracing the experience of writing slowly, working away at a first draft gradually, and letting the ideas take their time to develop. It feels good to remember that it's the process that matters and not the product. I will reach a full first draft of this novel. Maybe it will even be 90,000 words. Maybe I'll even finish it within this year. But for now, I am just going to take my time.